In this video, I'm going to explain about how to convert the temperature which is given in Celsius and to equivalent Fahrenheit. So there is a Celsius to Fahrenheit conversion, Fahrenheit to Celsius conversion is there, but here requirement is Celsius to Fahrenheit conversion. That is F is equals to C multiplied by 9 by 5 plus 32. That is the formula. So using a GUI application, we are going to solve this. First, I will show you the sample output screens, how the input window will looks. So the input window will looks like this. There is a window looks like this, and there is a title displayed on this one. The title of this window is my window, and there is a minimize button, maximize button, closing button. If you see here inside the window, the body part of the window, it is having three components. One label, this is called label, and beside the label there is a white color box that is called entry box or text box provided to enter the information that is called data temperature information in Celsius format. And after that the user needs to click on the button provided in the next row, that is called convert button. This is a button, it looks like a rectangle shape. This is called button. On top of the button, the purpose of the button is displayed. A label is displayed on top of the button. So the purpose of this button is to convert the given Celsius to Fahrenheit. After clicking on convert, what will happen? There is a output box. Output message box will be displayed like this. The output message box title is like this. This is the title, and this is the result after conversion of given Celsius. The result is like this. Very simple things. So here we need to follow three steps. The first one is step 1. Step 1, design a window. Step 2, create three components. GUI component. What are those components? We need a label, we need a entry box, we need a button. These three components we require, so we need to create and we need to add them to the above window. Add them to window. This is step. The third step is implement the functionality. If the user clicks on convert button, something will happen. That is called conversion will happen. So that is implement logic or implement functionality. Implement functionality. So design a window, create GUI components. Here as per the requirement we need a label. Beside the label we need a text box or entry box, and below that there is a button is required like this. There is a button, a label is required, an entry box is required, a button is required. After clicking on the button, something will generate here. The output is generated in a separate window. That is called implementing the functionality. First, I will design a plain window without the GUI components. Later, I will create the three components. I will add them. Later, I will add the functionality. So this is the order I am following to solve this. First, open the IDLE tool. Click on new Python file. To develop GUI applications, we need a package called tkinter. So first we need to import that one. This one. So tk from the module tkinter we are importing many things. That is star means many, all, and we need to create an instance for the built-in constructor called tk. There is a built-in constructor that is defined in tkinter module. That is for the tkinter there is a constructor called tk that is used to create an instance for the window. So I created and I hold it in a variable called window. Now I want to set some title for this window. So this program is for temperature conversion. So I named it as title as meaningful, that is temperature conversion. And I want to set some size for the window. How much space is going to be occupied by this window on the screen size? I need to specify the width and height, the dimensions to hold the space. That is specified with the help of a function called geometry. Here you need to specify width value and height value. Now, so these three lines of code is required. Four lines of code. One is importing the required libraries. Another one is instantiating. The next one is set title for the window and set size for the window. So first I will show you. This is step one. Step one is design a window. So in the respective directory, save with some valid name. Suppose app1.py, for example. Now I try to run this program. So now a window is going to create it with the given title. Yeah, a window is created. You see here, this one. What is the name of the window? Temperature conversion. Temperature conversion, a plain window is created. This one, minimize button, maximize button, closing button, only plain window, no components, no label, no entry box, no button and all. Next one. After creating a plain window, next job is we need to create the required components. As per this application requirement, we need a label, we need an entry box, we need a button. So first I will create a label with the help of label class. So label is a class and this its constructor is expecting name of the label. Name of the label can be specified by assigning some value to the text. What is the purpose of this label? We are conveying a message to the user, enter Celsius value, and we need to specify the some font size, this one, and we need to, so this statement creates a label. We need to add this label on that window. So how can we mention that one? There is a function called grid function. Grid is a function that is used to arrange the elements in the form of rows and columns. So here in which row we want to place that element, in which column we want to. So we have to specify row number and column number. Actually row numbers are beginning from 0, column numbers also beginning from 0. So first row is specified by row 0 and first column is also specified by column 0. If I place it like this, the L1 will add it on the above window in the first row, first column. You can observe the output. So actually it is showing some warning, even though it is generating output, it is showing warning message inside the geometry function. So some things specified here, I will check it once. Just wait, I'm closing this one. I will do some corrections in the program. Yeah, actually here we need to give, this is not, we need to give a small x here. I given capital X. That is the reason it is showing an error message. Now it will come. Now you can watch. See, no errors. Previously it is generated an error inside the geometry function. So 400 by 200 is represented by 400 alphabet X 200. But I typed it as big X. Uppercase X I typed it. That is the reason it's shown error in the previous two cases. Now I created a label and that label is added on the window. See, I mentioned here it is row 0 column 0. See, it is now beside the this label I need an entry box or text box which allows only one line information. So that I can show you. So after creating the label, the next job is we need to create an entry box. Entry box can be created with the help of a inbuilt class called entry. Inside the class constructor entry, we need to pass size. How many characters are going to be holded by this one. By default, just I given 15. If you did not specify, the default size will be displayed. Suppose I want to display the size of the text box is which is going to occupy 15 characters by default. But still, if you are enter, it is allowing the rest of the characters also. But by default, the width looks this much of size, 15 characters width. And in future we need to read the value that is entered in this field. Why? Because the user is going to enter the Celsius value in this box, so we need to read it. If you want to read it, we need to assign a name. The name can be assigned like this with the help of text variable. And the next one is font. So this is common, font is equals to 100. We need to display this one font size. So e1 dot grid. After creating the entry box, again we need to specify where we are going to add this component on the above window. So we need to specify beside the previous component. Beside the previous component means row is same, first row only, but column is second column. So row number is first row is represented by row 0, second column is represented by column 1. So those values we need to pass. Row is equals to 0, column is equals to 1. Save this, run this. So now we are able to see both. Yeah, spelling mistake is there in the text variable VARIABLE. Because of that I got this. It's a typing error. Now, so what is the purpose of text variable? We are assigning a name to our text box. In future we are trying to read the content that is entered in this text box or entry box. For that reason we need this value. Now you see here beside the label there is a entry box which allows single line information. You see, by default it is 15 characters width, 15 characters width, like by default. Okay, any number of characters it is accepted, but default width, why it is shown the width this much only? Because we specified 15 characters width is equals to 15. Next one, what next? We need to create a button in the second row. We need to place the button on the second row. So button, there is a class called button. For button also we need to specify the label on top of the button. Suppose when you are accessing your Gmail account, below there is a buttons provided, login button. How can you say that that is a login button? You need to click on that because the label of the button is displayed like login, clear, cancel, reset, okay. Like that some label is provided. That label will convey the purpose of that button. So the purpose of the button is mentioned here with the help of text. Here the purpose of the button is to convert. So I assign like convert. And font size. Now after creating the button, this button need to be added with the help of grid function. Grid is a function used to arrange the elements in the number of rows and in the form of rows and columns. So we need to keep this element in the first row and in this first column. Sorry, second row, first column. Second row means it is represented by first index. First column means it is represented by column 0 because the index values are start from 0. Don't confuse. So once we added any lines, immediately save it, rerun the program again. Now if you see, we designed a window. On top of the window we created three components like a label with this label text, and beside an entry box which allows a single line information, and below that, so below that means it is second row. So we represented like this should be added in row 1 column 0 means second row first column. So now first two steps are completed. If you observe the sample output screens, this part is completed. But when once the user clicks on convert, nothing will happen because we did not implemented the event handling or implementation functionality. Only we finished the first two. We finished design window part. We finished this part. We created three components: label, entry, and button. With the help of a grid function, we added them to window. Now our next job is we need to implement the functionality. So how we can implement the functionality means once the user clicks on the button, something will happen. So that can be communicated with the help of an attribute called command. And now I'm going to define a function with the name calculate. So till now I did not define any function with the name calculate. Now I'm going to define it. So before designing part, I define how to define functions in Python using def keyword, and we specified the name of the function is calculate, like this. Now here we need to capture the value that is entered in the first thing is we need to catch the value that is entered in the text box or entry box. What is the name of our entry box? T1. T1.get. Get is a built-in function. Use it to read the value that is entered in the entry box. But this get function return type is string. Why? Because it is an entry box. It is a text box. Text box always treats the entries as strings only. We need to convert them into integer with the help of int function. Int function. After converting this result into integer, we need to hold it in a variable called c. Any variable. So what is the value that is entered? Temperature value in Celsius. So I mentioned it as c. Now using the formula, we need to convert this into Fahrenheit. So F is equals to C multiplied 9 by 5 plus 32. This is the standard formula to convert Celsius to Fahrenheit. So how we capture the Celsius value? The user entered in the text box. So how we catch it? With the help of get function. But why we need to convert into integer? That is treated as a string. Because of that reason we converted that into integer. After conversion we are storing it in a variable called C. Now the result is generated. Now we need to display this result to the end user. So how we are going to display? We have separate window box. A separate box is created here. If you observe, like this. How can we get a small pop-up box like this? There is a message box. Message box dot show info. Here we need to specify some title. This is result window. That message box also having a title position. On title bar, it is this one will be displayed, and after that we are displaying Fahrenheit. This one. F. So F is our target output that we are converted into string. Why? Because it is a numerical value. It may be a float value or any other data type value. Why? Because it is including divisions, multiplications, and additions. Okay. So that value we are converting into string, and then that is appended to on message box. Actually, if message box is by default not available, we need to import one more package, that is from tkinter import message box. Save this application. Now implementation function is also completed. So actually the denominator value is 5. C multiplied by 9 by 5 plus 32. So I am giving a value which is suitably divisible by 5, like 35 given. So 5 sevens are 35. So 7 into 9 plus 32. Yeah, T1 is not different. See, still some more corrections are required in our program. Actually, I use T1.get, but nowhere it is saying that whatever the name variable name that is used, that was not defined. So before using that t1 inside this text entry, actually I used it here, but nowhere it is declared. It should be declared somewhere in our program. So here we need, after designing the window, here we need to define t1 is equals to, it is going to hold only string variables that can be represented using this function. You can see here this one. So t1 is initialized and t1 is passed as an attribute value inside the entry box, and now using the get function also. So get function we can be applied whenever we are using this function. Run the application now. 35. So conversion, at the time of conversion it is showing an error. I will show you. There is a correction required in terms of variable name and all. Text variable is t1, that is passed inside the entry function, and t1 is going to hold it as string variable, and here we are passing here. Suppose for example, suppose it is returns a string value, so I am hold it in a string. I am hold it in a string. In next step, I am going to convert that string result into integer with the help of int typecasting function. And after converting that string into integer, I am holding it in C. So this C, on C we are applying this formula. We will see. Okay. So inside the show info function, it is showing an error. Show info. So where is the show info function we use it here? Here, message box. Actually, it is expecting only two arguments, but I am passing three arguments. You see, this is the first argument. The first argument and the next argument is separated by comma. This is the second argument. Only it is expecting two arguments, but I separated with comma and specified another one, means it is treated as three arguments. If you see, if you read the error, it is expecting zero argument, one argument, two. Total three arguments are given, but actually it is expecting only two. So we need to remove one. So that unnecessary arguments, by mistake here we need to give plus here. We are attaching that result to the previous string. So that is plus actually, not comma. Because of that reason it is showing error message previous. Now it will run the program. I given multiply of the 35, you can show. So this is the result. 35 means for 35 into 9 by 5, that results 7 into 9, that is 63. 63 plus 32, how much? 95. So we got 95. If you want, you can change some other value. So first 40. So 5 8s are 40. 8 into 9, 72. 72 plus 32, that results 104. So like that you can give any number. Suppose if you are not, if you are given another value like 43, which is not successfully divisible by 5, then you are getting floating point number like 109.4, like that. So in this way, we can design a window, we can create a number of components, and we can add them as per our requirement using the grid layout. Grid is a layout function. Layout will decide the position of the arguments, position of the GUI components like labels, entry boxes, and buttons. So how we are reading the value inside the text box, we are passing an attribute that is called text variable. So using this t1, I try to capture the value that is entered in this one. After, because but the text field return type is string, that is holded as string variable s, that is converted to integer later in the next step, and that is holded in a variable called c using the standard formula. Celsius to Fahrenheit conversion we are converted, and finally this value f we are displaying on a separate message box using show info, and it is expecting two arguments result window. If you observe what is the purpose of this result window, I will show you. When I assign here some value, click on convert button here. This is, you observe my mouse pointer here, the title of the resultant window is named it as result window. Why? Because in my program I specified clearly the title of that one is result window. Because of that reason it is displaying this as the title on the resultant window, and below that it provided this result, it displayed the result. So like we followed all three steps, very simple one. It's not a, of course it may be I mean, lengthy program, but if you are splitting our program into three parts, first one is design part, next one is adding the creating components and adding them, and next one is implement the functionality. How we implement the functionality? Whenever the user clicks on the button, we need to do something, so that is conveyed with the help of an attribute called command. Command attribute will call a function called calculate. So that calculate is a user defined function, means myself I defined it. Inside the function, what are the statements I provided? I provided reading the values and convert them into integers, and using the formula convert it. So like this we can design a window application in Python.